We often hear the phrase illegal immigration, leading many to assume that anyone who enters the country without authorization is immediately treated as a criminal by the courts. But tonight, in part 2 of our series Immigration Decoded, we find out the legal reality is much more complicated. 13 WREX's Manny Estopinan is sitting down with immigration lawyer Sara Dady to understand how the government prosecutes these individuals.
Today, we're breaking down what happens when someone enters our country without legal authorization, or some would say illegally. When the government goes to charge these people, they can approach it in different ways.
The government has the option to charge it as a civil violation or a criminal offense. Just like when someone violates our tax laws, it can be charged as a civil offense and there are assessed penalties, or as a criminal offense, depending on the facts.
Now, Dady makes it clear that entering the country without permission is a federal misdemeanor. It says so right here in Title 8 of the United States Code, Section 1325. But according to the ACLU, civil removal proceedings are the main way the federal government enforces immigration laws. That means most of those entering our country without authorization are charged with a civil violation, not a criminal one. And that gives our government an easier path because there's less protections in the civil justice system.
If someone is charged with a criminal offense and entering the country without permission is a federal misdemeanor, okay? If you're charged with a crime, full due process protections come into play. People have the right to a free lawyer. If you're charged with a civil offense, fewer due process protections. People have the right to a lawyer, but not a free one. There is no public defender's office for civil offenses like immigration court. There are no free lawyers for people charged with civil tax penalties, civil law.
Now, Dady explains since most of those immigration offenders are processed through the civil system, they aren't treated as criminals by the court. It's the same civil system you use to dispute your speeding tickets.
When we talk about someone who came in illegally, there's this idea that if you break any law, you're a criminal, which is not true. We have civil laws and criminal laws. People that violate civil laws are not criminals. People who speed down State Street are not committing a crime. They're committing a civil violation. They can be pulled over and fined. The way that we typically punish civil violations is through fines, monetary, not locking people up and separating them from their family forever.
But this is where immigration law is unique. While it is technically a civil violation, the government does detain thousands of people while their cases are processed. Legal experts call this administrative detention, arguing it's not meant to punish, but to ensure people show up to court, though critics argue the practice lacks due process.